All right, let's talk about one of the biggest paradoxes on the modern web, a technology called Wai Aria. Now, it was designed to make websites work for literally everyone. But here's the catch, if you use it wrong, it can make things so much worse. So how do we get it right? Let's dive in.
I want you to imagine this for a second. You're on your favorite shopping site. You find what you want, but the Add to Cart button, it's just not there. Or maybe you're in a chat app. A new message comes in, but all you hear is silence. For millions of people who use tools like screen readers, that's not a what if. It's a real daily frustration.
So how did we even get here? Well, as websites got more and more complex, evolving from simple documents into these super dynamic apps, developers started building their own custom widgets. Think drop-down menus, sliders, tab panels, things that aren't actually standard in HTML. And in doing that, they accidentally created a whole new set of invisible barriers.
Okay, let's make this super clear. A developer can create two things that look exactly like a button. One is a proper HTML button tag. The other is just a generic box, a div, that's styled with CSS to look like a button. Now to a screen reader, that first one is perfect. It says, hey, I'm a button, you can click me. But the second one? It's totally silent. It's a meaningless box. And that gap in meaning is exactly the problem that Aria is supposed to solve.
What's really fascinating is how this all works behind the scenes. Assistive technology, or AT, doesn't actually see the web page like we do. Instead, it reads something called the accessibility tree. You can think of it like a simplified map of the page, showing only what's essential, what something is, what it's called, and what it's doing. When we use good standard HTML, that map gets built perfectly, automatically. But when we use those custom divs for everything, we start leaving big, confusing holes in the map.
Right, so these holes in the accessibility map are the real enemy here. It makes sense then that the best way to win is to just not create the holes in the first place. And that's why our first line of defense always is plain old native HTML. Before you reach for any fancy tools, you've got to get the basics right.
Honestly, using semantic HTML, things like main for your main content, nav for navigation, or a real button for a button, is the easiest and most rock-solid way to build accessible sites. And you want to know why? Because you get all the important stuff for free. The meaning, the role, even the keyboard controls, like using the spacebar to click a button. It's all built right in. The browser and the screen reader already speak this language perfectly. But what happens when HTML just doesn't cut it? When you're building a super complex web app that needs to act like desktop software. Well, that's when you have to call in the special forces. And that's Aria.
Wai Aria stands for Accessible Rich Internet Applications. It's basically a set of extra attributes you can add to your HTML. It's not a language itself. Its entire job is to patch those holes in the accessibility map we talked about. It lets us tell the browser what our custom-made stuff is supposed to be, giving a voice to those otherwise meaningless boxes.
Aria does this in three main ways. First, you have roles, which tell the browser what an element is, like saying this div has a role of button. Then you have properties, which describe its features, like Aria required true on a form field. And finally, you have states, which describe its current condition, like Aria expanded false on a menu that's closed. Roles, properties, states. Together, they paint the full picture for assistive tech. But here is the kicker. A major report from WebAIM found that home pages that use Aria have, on average, 70% more accessibility errors than pages that don't. 70%! How is that even possible? It's because Aria is so powerful, it's also incredibly easy to mess up. If you get it wrong, you can make a website less accessible than if you hadn't used it at all. You can mislead users, break their experience, and create total confusion.
This is exactly why there are some really important guidelines, which we can call the 5 rules of Aria. If you follow these, you can be sure you're actually helping, not hurting. Let's start with the most important rule. And it sounds a little crazy. The first rule of Aria is don't use Aria. Seriously, if there is a native HTML element that does what you need, like a button or an input type checkbox, you should always use that instead. Period. It's stronger, it has better support, and the keyboard functions are already there.
Aria is your tool of last resort, not your first choice.
Okay, rule number 2. Don't change an element's native semantics. What that means is you should never take something like a heading, an H2, and try to make it something else, like role equals tab. That heading already has a really important job. Instead, let the heading be a heading, and if you need to, wrap it in a neutral element like a div and apply the Aria role to that.
Next up, Rule 3, and this one is absolutely non-negotiable. If you build a custom interactive thing with Aria, it must be 100% usable with only a keyboard. A user has to be able to tab to it, and they have to be able to activate it with Enter or the spacebar. And remember, Aria doesn't do this for you. You have to write the code to make that happen.
Rule 4 is a big one. Don't hide things that are focusable. Using a property like Aria hidden equals true on something you can tab to, like a button, creates what we call a ghost control. A keyboard user can land on it, but their screen reader will tell them nothing is there. It's just a black hole in the page, a totally broken and confusing experience.
And finally, Rule 5. Every single interactive element needs an accessible name. A screen reader has to be able to announce what a control actually does. Is it a search button? Is it a first name input field? This name can come from simple text, alt text on an image, or a proper label. Without a name, you're just giving your users a mystery button.
Okay, now that we have the ground rules for using Aria safely, we can finally unlock one of its coolest and most powerful features, making a dynamic, ever-changing website speak clearly to everyone. Just think about it. So much of the modern web involves things changing on the page without a full reload. You add an item to your shopping cart, new search results appear, a chat message pops up. For a sighted user, that visual change is obvious. But for a screen reader user, if that change isn't announced out loud, it's just silence. It's like it never even happened.
The solution here is a brilliant Aria feature called a live region. It's so simple. All you do is add the attribute Aria Live to an element on the page, and you're essentially telling assistive technologies, hey, keep an eye on this little spot. If anything changes inside of it, I need you to announce it.
And the way it works is just beautiful. First, your app's code updates something inside that live region. Second, the browser's accessibility system immediately detects that change. And third, the screen reader announces the new content to the user. And the best part? It all happens without stealing their focus or making them hunt around the page for what's new.
And we even get to control how urgent the announcement is. Using Aria Live equals polite is the standard. It patiently waits for the screen reader to finish whatever it's saying before making the announcement. It's perfect for something like item added to cart. But for something critical, like an error message, you can use Aria Live Assertive, which will interrupt whatever's happening to deliver that important news right away. So when we pull all of this together, it's clear that Aria isn't some magic wand you can wave to fix accessibility. It's a precision tool, and using it correctly is a core part of our responsibility as the people who actually build the web for everyone else.
And you know, here's maybe the most important takeaway of all. When you focus on building an accessible web, you're not just helping a small group of users. A well-structured website, built with good HTML and, only when necessary, thoughtful Aria, is a better, faster, and less frustrating website for everybody. It's not about checking a box for compliance, it's just plain good design.
In the end, Aria is a bridge. It connects the incredibly complex and interactive web that we're all so excited to build to the assistive technologies that make sure everyone gets to be a part of it. Our challenge is to use these tools with care, with empathy, and with a real commitment to not leaving anyone behind. So the question we're left with is this. As we keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible online, how do we make sure the future we build is a future for all?